You need to eat something. You have to stay strong.
The fluorescent lights of Sector 7 military base hummed like dying stars. It was 1,400 hours, lunch hour, and the cafeteria was packed with soldiers, scientists, and contractors, all moving through the food line with loud trays and louder conversations. Nobody paid attention to the corner table near the emergency exit. Nobody except Marco. She was sitting there again. Lyra, that was the name they had given her, because nobody could pronounce her actual name, a sound like wind through broken glass, sat perfectly still, her blue-gray hands folded on the cold metal table. In front of her, nothing. No tray. No food. No water. Just empty space where a meal should have been. She had been on this base for 11 days. In 11 days, nobody had offered her a single thing to eat. Marco set his tray down at his usual table, picked up his fork, then put it back down. He had watched this happen every single day. The scientists who studied her would poke and prod her in the morning, take their notes, and then vanish into their labs for lunch, leaving her alone in the common area as if she were furniture. The soldiers either stared at her with fear or ignored her completely. The cafeteria staff hadn't been told what to give her, so they gave her nothing. Command hadn't issued an order, so nobody moved. Bureaucracy, Marco thought bitterly. Even when someone is starving right in front of you, people wait for a memo. He picked up his tray and walked toward her. "Hey," he said. Lyra looked up. Her amber eyes, wide, luminous, slightly wet at the edges, focused on him slowly like a camera adjusting to light. She had learned some English in the weeks since first contact. Not much, but enough. "Hello," she said. Her voice was soft, like something that had forgotten how to be loud. Marco placed his tray between them and sat down across from her. He pushed half the tray toward her side of the table. The bread, the sliced avocado, the fruit, a warm piece of flatbread. He kept the coffee for himself. He'd need it. "Come eat with me," he said simply. She stared at the food. Then she stared at him. Her expression didn't change immediately. Aliens, Marco had learned, don't show shock the way humans do. But her fingers moved, just slightly, reaching out and then pulling back, as if she didn't trust that this was real. "For me?" she asked. "For you," he confirmed. She picked up a piece of bread with 2 fingers, the way a child handles something precious and unfamiliar. She brought it to her lips. Marco said nothing. He just drank his coffee and looked out the window at the gray Nevada sky. Behind them, he heard the cafeteria noise shift. He felt eyes turning. People noticing. He didn't care. What happened next, he didn't expect. Lyra made a sound, low, harmonic, like 2 notes played at once. It took him a moment to realize it was crying. She was crying the way her species cried. Not with sobs, but with sound. A frequency that sat somewhere between music and grief. "You are first," she said quietly. 11 days. "You are first." Marco set down his coffee cup. He looked at her directly. Not the way scientists looked at her, cataloging and assessing, but the way a human being looks at another human being when they realize something terrible has happened. "I'm sorry it took this long," he said. She touched the fruit, a small red berry from the base kitchen, and held it up as if examining a jewel. Then she placed it in her mouth and closed her eyes. When she opened them again, the tears had stopped. Something else had replaced them. Not happiness exactly, but the specific relief of a creature that has been noticed after a long time of being invisible. Word traveled fast on a military base. By dinner that evening, 3 other soldiers had brought trays to her table. By the next morning, the cafeteria staff had a new standing order. 1 tray, prepared fresh, every meal, for the guest in Section C. By the end of the week, a small group had started eating lunch with her regularly, learning her name or trying to, and teaching her new words in return. Started with one tray. It started with one person who didn't wait for a memo, didn't wait for permission, didn't wait for command to tell him that the most basic human act, feeding someone who is hungry, was allowed. Marco never thought of himself as brave. He fought in 2 wars and never collected a single medal he was proud of. But that afternoon, sitting across from a starving girl from a distant star, pushing half a tray of food across a cold metal table, that was the moment he would remember for the rest of his life as the one time he was certain he had done exactly the right thing. Lyra learned 47 English words in the month that followed. The 48th word she learned was friend. She learned it from Marco.